I am a proud public library kid. My Tia introduced us to it, and then my Tia, who's not a Tia, would take us because my parents worked all the time. So during the summers, they would swing by and pick us up, and we'd spend all day at the library.
I feel like subconsciously that's where I always end up trying to do that big sister mothering thing. It's like, are you okay? There's a Navi right here if anybody's a Zelda fan. Just like, hey, listen to me. Hey, you have to do this.
Yeah, I think people here really root for one another. Hi everyone, my name is Fernanda Martinez-Donaus, and I am the Executive Director of RioProgress and the host of RioProgress, the podcast. I am wearing one of my favorite shirts today, which is What's More Punk Than the Public Library? Because A, what is more punk than the public library? But also, I am really excited about our guest today, who is a youth librarian, amongst many other things. And she is here with us to talk a little bit about why reading is important, why the library is important, but also about her story and her journey to get there. So without further ado, Beatriz Morales, will you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, first of all. My name is Beatriz. I'm a teen librarian as of right now. And who am I? I'm just a girl. But I'm a girl that's a librarian, that's also does too many crafts and don't totally finish everything. I have a list of books that I have to read that is probably taller than me. So it's just kind of one of those things where my profession and my career definitely do not make me me. I am not a shusher. I am not a quiet person. I'm a loud laugher. And if you were to see me at the library, you'd probably shush me more often than I do that to you.
All of that's very relatable. I think I'm still on the crafts that I don't always finish. But I'm also now looking back at meeting you at the library and seeing you at the library and realizing this is a very cool person. I want to be her friend, but also I think the perfect balance for what a teen librarian should be, because they don't, the image we have of librarians in school books and things like that is very strict, very quiet, can't eat here, can't do anything here. And you're the opposite of that, which is, I think, wonderful for the teenagers that get to work with you. Do you have experiences growing up where you feel like you saw a librarian that was like this, or is this just your personality that just can't hide behind the title?
This is just me.
Okay.
Unfiltered, raw, a little filtered. But definitely me. Yes. I remember all of my librarians. They were really nice. I love them. If you remember me as a student, great. I hope I make you proud. But it's kind of one of those where they kept that teacher presence, which is amazing. But it also put them a little bit further, and I couldn't get that connection with them. So when I started working as a youth services librarian at the public library, I was honestly petrified. I was like, oh my God, teenagers, they're gonna be like, they find every single bit of things that you are concerned about, and they're like, you do have a pimple. And I was like, no, I was trying to hide that. But I learned pretty quickly that being honest, being silly, and then just being me was the best way to kind of get that connection with them. And now they still point out that I'm wearing pimple patches, but they're not like, haha. Yeah, they're like, let me draw a smiley face on it. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I love that, because I think a lot of people are afraid of teenagers, and they're, I think, fair. But I like the approach of honesty. I think that is probably the crucial part, and the own your cringe, right? You're not you're never going to be as cool as the teenagers are,
Mm-hmm.
but letting them know that you understand that and are still willing to work with them, I think that's so important. How long have you been at the library?
I've been at the library for 2 years now, and it has been a lot of fun. I've discovered so many things about myself, about anime, and everything in between. Just crafts galore at this point. It's been a really fun journey, and I'm so excited that it's led me to meet you, because it's just amazing.
So how did you get here? Right?
Well, my parents, no, just kidding.
We all start off that way.
We all start off that way. So sorry, biology. No, it was just kind of one of those things where I genuinely never thought I'd end up at a library. I think like a lot of people, but it always felt like home. So in elementary, I'd go to the library and my lunch, or that's where I had like my after school activities. In middle school, especially when you don't go to the same one or you get transferred, that comfort of having the same library in the same location as every building was really nice. So doesn't matter where I was or how lost I felt sometimes, I knew that if I went to the center of the school, the library was going to be there.
Yeah.
And they don't turn kids away.
No.
Yes.
No matter how weird, how strange.
Yeah, if anything, they're like, oh yeah, kids. Child labor. And then in high school, I lived high school and college. I lived in it. It had every resource that I needed. It had internet. It had the computers. It had a printing. It had access to books and graphic novels. So it was just one of those things where when I got a job at the university library, it did really feel like coming home. It felt welcoming. And then while I was there, I was like, this doesn't feel so bad. I can do this. And with the help, with the suggestion and the, I guess the help of a lot of the people that I worked with, I got into school because you do need a master's to be a librarian. Fun fact, you have to have your master's degree. So a lot of people don't know that. They're like, oh, you can just buy books? Yeah, you can, but with your degree.
That's something that I learned later than I thought I would learn. But I knew someone who was doing a master's in library sciences. I think that's the title of it. And I was mind blown because these are the types of careers you don't hear about, but yet like you interacted with librarians your whole life. And to think about, but I never thought of becoming one or what it would take. So I'm a little curious, like, let's go back further before the master's, right? Before you realized you wanted to be a librarian. Did you think about college growing up? And if so, what did you think about it?
Absolutely. I genuinely don't think that college was ever out of the question for me. Every school I went to, every grade I had, it was like, okay, you have to make sure that you are at the top of your game because you're going to go to college. And being one of the first graduates of my family, there was this big pressure of it, but it was also like I had my goal and I already knew that I was going to make it. When I graduated high school, it was scary because I was like, okay, gonna go to college, pack back on, and let's go. But then I was like, majors? I have to choose a career? I'm 17.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I want to have for lunch tomorrow. What do you mean what I want to do for the rest of my life? So I knew that college was always going to be it for me. And I'm glad that that was the case. And it wasn't until I was in college that I fully realized, oh, there's choices and there's a lot of other things that you have to do. But it was a really fun learning experience. And I think I was able to learn all about myself. But if I didn't have that push from my family and from my community and just everyone around me, I don't know if I would have been brave enough to just jump in.
show up with your backpack and all and
ready to go.
Hope for the best. So I skipped a little bit of this part, but are you from Brownsville? What high school did you go to? Tell us a little bit about that. I think to give context to this college-going culture. So you can start wherever you want. Elementary, middle school, high school.
No, I'm going to give everybody my age at this point. So I am from Brownsville. I grew up both in Matamoros and here, so it's just kind of one of those like crossing back and forth, which I understand a lot of people do. A lot of our students do. And that's another thing that I'm always like, you're so strong, because I remember waking up at 4 a.m. to try to get to the bridge at like 6, maybe 5:30, and then just waiting
for the line and for it to open and all that. Yeah. And a lot of our students have that same experience. Yeah. So how long did you do that for, or your whole K-12?
Most of it. I want to say K through like 9. Okay. And then things settled down, so I went to school here and I was living here. And I went to high school at a school that no longer exists. I was part of the STISD MedTech system.
Well, so, there's STISD is still around.
STISD is still there. The high school that I went to is now like a middle school, and it's amazing and cute, but I do love telling the kids, and they're like, "Ma'am, how old are you?" And I was like, "My high school doesn't exist anymore, so I'm really old."
I love it. Is it Rising Scholars now? Yeah. Okay, I worked there for a year. So I know your high school, even though it's not your high school anymore. Yeah. Okay, so MedTech. So did you want to go medical, or it just felt like the school to go to at the time?
It was what I was told to do. Okay. And at first I did feel like it was very scary. Going to a new place that's far away, no friends that you know of.
Because you took the bus there, right?
Yeah. And there's people that go to those schools that are from all over the valley. So that was another very scary thing. I'd never been to school with someone that wasn't in Brownsville or Matamoros, so it was just hard. But it was also very easy because everyone that was in school that was there was in the same boat. So we all trauma bonded or just fell into our little groups together. And I'm so grateful for that community because it really started me off with the idea of how college works. So it had the AB day system. If you forgot your homework one day, well, you know, that's the next day.
STISD is really good at giving you an idea of what college rigor and expectations are like. Yeah. And that's kind of what you're highlighting, right? Like they set you up where you knew that, but also you didn't think you weren't going to college, right? That wasn't a thought. I think that's also something that they do a lot of is college readiness, college as a norm, which is not something that our whole community gets, right? No. And I'm sure you see this now that you're working at the library, how different your experience was from a lot of the other students. So MedTech, you go to college, and do you go to UTRGV?
I actually went to UTB-TSC before they split. Okay. And I started school there, and then I transferred to Texas A&M Kingsville because, because I really wanted to do their communication science disorders program. I have a cousin who had a forgot what it's called.
A tongue tie, a lisp.
Oh no, cleft palate. Yes, gonna go back. I have a cousin who has a cleft palate, and growing up, we did have that kind of understanding that there were some things that were going to be really difficult. And I don't think that I wanted to learn about language until I got to school and I realized how important language really is. So being bilingual, having that experience, having to translate to all the adults around you
all the time,
and having I was a little lawyer at like 5. I felt so smart. So it was kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, maybe this is the route. And I loved it. It was so good. I learned so much about development, and I wanted to be a linguist, but that's really hard. And the job market is bad. And my anthropology teacher told me, are you sure? And I was like, no, you're right. I'm going to stay as a clinician. I would definitely want to do the clinic thing. So I graduated. I worked as a speech language pathology assistant,
that's cool.
Helping kids. And then the job market kind of swung its way to me ending up at the library and then doing that. But yeah, it was kind of one of those where I knew I always wanted to help. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how. I just know that that's what I wanted to do.
And that's where a lot of our students start. I think I ask people about their majors, as stressful as it is, I know, even to relive that process, because we get a lot of students who are freaking out about getting into college. But part of that freak out is, and they're telling me I have to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And that is such a big question that you're right. You said 17-year-olds have to figure this out. And I think it's the first big decision we make as, young people transitioning into adulthood. But there's not a lot of guidance for it. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of how do you do this when maybe your parents didn't have to pick a major. If they went to school, maybe they went to school in Mexico, mine did. And so there were 4 majors. Mm-hmm. And it's just, are you good at math? Are you good at reading? Do you like talking to people? Like, that's how they track you. Versus here where it feels like we have hundreds and hundreds of majors to choose from. Some which I had never heard of, communication sciences. And it sounds like you followed the path of, I show up and then my major kind of found me, right? Or my career kind of found me, which is wonderful. I think that was a little bit of my experience as well. But I also want, to help 17-year-old you that was like, hey, I'm lost. Mm-hmm. I don't know all these things. Because what if, you don't find those people along the way, like your anthropology professor, to tell you, maybe reconsider, or have you thought about all of the consequences, the extent of this? Do you feel like you would have done it differently? Like you would have changed your major or picked something different if you'd had more knowledge or more support?
I think so. I know that growing up, everyone's like, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be an engineer. And as fun as that is, it's not for everybody. Uh-uh. And that pressure was always there. So it's like, I know I need to do something and I'm going to be successful and it's going to be great. But there are so many ways of success. Mm-hmm. And being a doctor is very expensive.
Yes.
School is expensive. Your license is expensive. Everything in between is expensive.
Yep.
And it takes a long time. I don't have that kind of patience. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you did a master's in library science, which also takes a good amount of time.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just different kind of like mm-hmm. stress levels, right?
And that's fair, right? We tell our students who come in saying they want to be doctors, I'm like, we're going to have a real conversation about how long this is going to take, how much money you're going to have to invest, and whether or not you're actually really in it for the passion of it, mm-hmm. or because this is one of 5 careers that you think you can do.
Yeah, and that was definitely the case. It was, you're gonna pick something, and doctor was one of those things that everyone was just throwing around. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for the schools that I went to, mm-hmm. MedTech was a big one, where one of my teachers straight up said, you guys are probably going to kill someone within your career if you guys stick to being a doctor. And that was terrifying.
No, that is not.
Traumatizing.
Don't tell children that.
No, don't ever. It's going to be okay. But that hit me so hard that I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to be a doctor. And that opened up the path to do so many other things. And think about what other avenues you could still serve your community. You could still be helpful. You can still go into that medical path that was amazing for me, or that kept my interest, but also didn't have that huge pressure.
It's a lot. I had a similar experience, and I try not to be this way now with my students, but I know sometimes you need the reality check, and so it's a fine balance. I had a health teacher in 7th grade who was like, oh, you want to be, and not to me, I never wanted to be a doctor, for the record. But the people who did, they're like, are you ready to tell someone that their loved one passed? I was like, oh, that's a part of being a doctor. And no one tells you this. And you might have the stomach for the surgery, but not the stomach for the work that it takes to be in a community and recognize that no matter how hard you try to serve, right, it might not be enough. And that is like a whole nother level of consideration that you don't have as a teenager, and that, your brain hasn't fully cooked. You don't really understand that. But I think it's helpful to maybe learn about before you go and invest at least $100,000, probably more, into med school.
Yeah.
And then get there and realize, I can't deal with the pressure. I can't deal with how hard this is, with the psychological toll it takes. It's kind of good to know early I wouldn't do it that way, but...
Yeah, the trauma hit me hard, but it was kind of one of those where it was like, no. Yeah. Immediately no. Do I thank her? In a way. I really like that teacher, but it was kind of one of those where if I hadn't had that reality check, I think I definitely would have wanted to pursue it, and that would have been a lot harder for me in a lot of different ways. And maybe I would have quit at that point, because you can try, you can be stubborn, you can be determined, you can do your best, but sometimes letting go of something that doesn't serve you, doesn't fit you, is just the best. And I think at that point, that would have been it. And I would have felt very defeated. But at the same time, with the support of the whole community and everybody that was kind of there lifting me up and being like, you can do it. I would have just probably taken a similar path, just a different route.
Okay. So I want to circle back to the foundation of what you were thinking about when picking a major. You said you just knew you wanted to help others. And I think you're doing a lot of that now. This role is probably like the perfect creation for that, helping and serving others. In the work that you do, whether it's at the library, or I know you also do things in terms of volunteering and other fun stuff, where do you see the biggest opportunities for building or strengthening our community?
I think it might be underrated, but it's just sharing the information. And that is the biggest, this is the biggest hurdle, but also like my biggest thing. When it comes to what a library can do for you, or what a library is, it has so many faces, and it has it means so many things to different people. To me, it always meant comfort and, safety and a fun place to just hang out and be with books, just going through all the adventures. For other people, it's a way to ensure that you're not out in the elements like you normally are. It is an accessible and equitable place where you can have access to technology and just general resources. And it evens the playing field. And that is amazing to me.
I am a proud public library kid. My Tia introduced us to it, and then my Tia who's not a Tia would take us. Because my parents worked all the time, so during the summers they would swing by and pick us up, and we'd spend all day at the library. This was before they had all the cool I'm also going to date myself just to even the playing field here. There was no makerspace, no coffee shop. It was much smaller. Not the cool entrance at the children's place that we have, but it was still magical. They had popcorn and movies and little activities. And I just remember being the smell of the library hits me, and I'm like, okay, this is a good place. This is a fun place to be. And I revisited as an adult. I took one of my group of students, and they were seniors in high school, and they were like, we didn't know this was here. Which, like broke my heart, but also made me so happy that now they knew, because you're right. It is a hub where you can make out of it what you need. And depending even on the stage of life you're in or what you're looking for, it can almost turn into like a room of requirement, right? And Harry Potter nerds, you'll get that reference, but it will become what you need it to be in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so cool. It's so magical. And you're right. It is a space that promotes equity and inclusion because it's also free, which not very many spaces are anymore. So I love that you all have all of these programs and events, and that sharing information is a crucial part of it, because I think there's not very many hubs now where people can get together. One of my recent rants is about third spaces. Are you familiar with the concept?
I don't think so.
It's this idea of, and I think the actual term is third place, but spaces where people can go that are not their home or work or for kids' school, that serve as a gathering place that everyone can have access to. And so it used to be that roller skating rinks, for example, were a third space, or the soda shop, if we go all the way back to the 50s. In big cities, it's the parks, it's coffee shops, which we now have, but even coffee shops have a price of admission. Mm-hmm. And so the library, to me, is one of the last third spaces that remain in our society, where truly it does not matter that you don't have, money or resources or access. This is a space where you can come and be and spend time with community members. And I say all that because I love the library and I needed my moment to fangirl about it. But also, I think there's a lot of power in the work that you all do at the library. Are there things that you have noticed? Because you said you've worked at an academic institution before, and now this is much more of a community-centered space. Are there differences that you've noticed or things that you've learned in the past couple of years since transitioning into this different environment?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the biggest one is the idea of community. So in an academic setting, there's this big community support, and this is where we want to make sure that we're there for the people so that they end up here, and it's great. Mm-hmm. But it's very specific. They're only focusing on high school or middle school or the education spaces, mm-hmm. and everything else is nice, but not at the top of the priority list. And at the public library in a community space, it's kind of the opposite. Mm. So you have your community. You have a very clear idea as to what people want and what people need, mm-hmm. and then you want to fulfill that. And then for me, as a teen librarian, it's kind of one of those, it's like, oh, I'm with the group that can't legally make decisions,
but really
want to.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that support of academic and what to expect and where you can look for information, but also that community support of who's out there, what can I do, what else is there other than a university or a college, trade schools, can I do that? And the answer is always yes. Mm-hmm. So I think in a way it just kind of coming from both really helps me bridge that gap of need and want, because people want things and people need things. They're two different things, but once you kind of overlap them and see how you can put them together, I find that I do my best work, especially for my teens and for my teen parents, because high school parents are so anxious. I'm so sorry. They're like,
you don't gotta apologize to me. I work with them too.
It's so scary. Sometimes they come in and they're like, what do I have to do? And I'm like, questions. First of all, we need to breathe. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And then we need to figure out what the real question is. What is that we want to do? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those where I'm super grateful for both, because it's helped me open up, and see that real big perspective of what adults and teens need and how I can help.
Mm-hmm. I love that approach. It overlaps perfectly with one of our RP values of first we cry, then we solve the problem, because that holds true for us, but also for our students and their families, right? I think we see a lot of people, because we are public spaces, right? I consider RP a public space. You see people coming asking for help, and sometimes it doesn't look very polished in that ask, because they're in a place where they are so vulnerable, and they just figured out that they need help, but they don't necessarily know what they need yet. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's wonderful that they feel comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, I'm freaking out. And this is, I don't know where to even start. Right? Or, I know sometimes the questions they ask, you're like, what are you actually worried about? Mm-hmm. Right? Like I had a student or with their parent come up to me and they're like, are we behind? I was like, where are you trying to go so I can tell you if you're behind or not?
Yeah, you have to dissect all the questions to kind of get to the root of it. Mm-hmm. But it's understandable. There's just so much information and not enough resources that and the vulnerability can get really heavy for someone, so that can feel overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So when they come to you flustered and just almost like they want to shake you so they can see if the answers just jump out.
Like the magic 8 ball.
Yeah. It's like, let me see what I have to do. You're like, okay, let's all settle. We cry a little bit. A good cry, I think, is helpful.
Yes.
And then we just go from there.
So you talked about also this balance between wants and needs, but I find in this work that there's a lot of needs. Mm-hmm. And I know that the library has been expanding and they've been doing amazing work to keep up with what the community needs. How do you prioritize within those? And is there something that you feel like is the top priority for teens specifically? And it could be within the library or outside of it, whatever you feel comfortable answering.
Well, there's hundreds of things. I feel like libraries want to be on top of all the technology, and that is fantastic and great, but that is also a lot. Yeah. And when it comes to specifically teens, I feel like they just get overlooked so much. Mm. And there's a big effort and a big focus on making sure that we have the right computer, the internet access, the printing, these very basic things that we know we need mm-hmm. because of school, but we're a different generation. Their needs and their wants are so different from the needs that I the needs and the wants that I had, and especially of my administrators. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm aging them a little bit more. But it's just the reality of things where we need to be able to listen to a teenager who maybe does not realize the power of their voice, does not realize that, that their voice can be heard. Mm-hmm. And that's where that like patience and just honesty, unfiltered, silly person comes in, because there's just so much in that head.
And all scrambled up.
It's all scrambled up. And it's worries, it's school, it's future, it's past, it's everything. And they need sometimes to just breathe, not worry about what my homework is going to be, what my book is, or when things are due, mm-hmm. and just either find a good graphic novel or listen to a musical or whatever the case may be, without feeling like there's that extra pressure of, do you know how to do this? Do you want for me to help you how to do this? That is just as overwhelming, I think.
So kind of creating a safe space for them to just come, hang out, decompress, because there's so many other pressures and other places, I think, where they do experience that. Mm-hmm. School is one of them, but if they work, they also have that. If, they work with us, they also have me in their chat being like, hey guys, deadline's coming up. Like, don't forget. So I love that that's a lot of what you prioritize, is making sure that they are okay in every other way besides academics, right? And every other way besides the, you know, becoming an adult. I think that's something that we do to teenagers often. It's this like pressure and rush to, you need to prepare for the real world, because if you don't, then bad things are going to happen. But really, they have a little bit of time, especially if we can set them up where they go to college, they have some time to figure it out there. They don't really need to be learning, you know, the crazy life skills at 13. It would be helpful if they learn some, but you're talking about prioritizing their wellness, right? And making sure that they're in a good place to be able to do all those other things.
Yeah. And that's, I feel like subconsciously, that's where I always end up trying to do that big sister mothering thing. It's like, are you okay? There's a Navi right here if anybody's a Zelda fan. Just like, hey, listen to me. Hey, you have to do this. Yes. And that's great. But at one point, asking them, are you good? Will make a huge difference. And that also builds that big trust between the community, the people that are there to support them, and the individual that's growing up and learning and trying to figure out all these questions in today's space.
So you did mention something that I'm curious about. You said that their needs are very different from what we needed. And I'm going to say we because I'm assuming we're around the same age. What are some of those big differences that you noticed? Because I was one of those kids that was printing things out at the library and really loved that they had those resources. So I'm curious, what do teenagers need now? Is it just that like chill space, or are there actual other things that you feel like are big differences?
I do think that chill space is one of the big things. It's just that like comfort space where you can just
relax,
slime and just let yourself go, right? But also I do know that, again, our generation, we grew up learning technology as it was kind of changing. And
poking breaking things.
It's like turning it off, turning it back on, just trying to see how it works. But now technology is moving so quickly that it's hard to keep up with, and that's okay. That feeling of oh no is fine. So I've had more chats with people of like, how do I send an email? Because emojis and are you something it does not work well.
No.
This is not going to get you what you need in college. This isn't going to get you an answer. People are going to think that's spam, and they're just going to be like, nope. So I feel like the needs of the generation is, one, someone to be, I think, patient and try to understand where they're coming from, but not judge them and say, well, you should already know this, because if you can do everything on your phone, you can do the tactics and the TikToks. I love grandmas that say that.
I was going to say, this sounds like an older person being like, well, you have the most powerful computer at your hands. Like, why aren't you using it?
It doesn't mean that they know exactly how to use it. And we all had to learn how to use everything, how to research things correctly, how to use Boolean terms, how to just not, in general, like just calculators and stuff like that. Is just, people forget, and that patience needs to be given and that grace needs to be given to them. So I feel like the needs right now is that understanding and giving them the grace of, it's okay, you might know a lot, and you do. You know way more than I do. But when it comes to like iPhones and stuff, but there are a few things that are going to overwhelm you, and you need to be okay with asking. You need to learn how to find that person or that pillar or that support group that's going to bring you up and not,
badger you.
Yeah.
I think that's been a theme and a through thread through the episodes we've had, where people have either really benefited from someone non-judgmental offering help and advice, or they've learned about how to make themselves more accessible to being the person that people go to for help. And I think it's so critical to think about this group of young people has had access to everything from the moment they were born. The internet has existed as we know it, as they know it, since they were born. And it is a lot if you didn't get almost initiated into it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we had to learn how to use it, but we got the benefit of slowly understanding everything versus this already exists in its full-fledged form, and now you just have to, like, sink or swim. Here you go. Figure it out. And they're really good at a lot of things. They can edit videos like nobody's business. Oh my God, yes. Can make great memes. I love, watching
They're
creativity.
so quick about that too. I'm like, where can you send me that website? Because now I want to do this.
But there's a lot that they don't know and a lot that they need help with. I am going to ask you a question that I know is going to be a little bit hard because you care so much about young people, and I know that you want the best for them. But I know that there's a conversation happening about young people not reading. And it felt like I couldn't go an episode with a librarian and not ask about this. So the way that this came to me, the way that I found it, because I'm a nerd, so I'm often on this side of the internet. But it was a video saying, and I think it stemmed from an article actually, professors are concerned that students are showing up for freshman year never having read a full book. And this was top tier schools, top tier professors, where the first year you're reading 16 books in a year. And the panic was, I think, oh my goodness, the kids aren't reading, which, should sound off alarms in some ways. But also, I think from the professor side, what am I going to do with kids that can't read? And I think both of those sides deserve their own time and attention. But I'm curious, because you work with young people, what you've seen is this, and I'm not going to ask if this is true because I know that there's data and stuff, but from your perspective in our community, right? Are the kids reading?
Yes.
Okay.
The kids are reading. They might not be reading books in the traditional sense with like the pages and stuff, but they're the things that literally make the book. But there are so many avenues where you can have stories. There are ebooks, there are audiobooks, and the same way that I think a lot of professors and teachers style their lessons around the different learning systems and the different learning styles, we have to kind of broaden our scope of understanding of what is reading. And literature is their place. It's music. It's stories. And a lot of the stories that I think we all hear don't just pop out of pages. They're read to you. They're told to you. They're gestured. There's movies. And there's a magic in that the traditional sense of the gold standard that is reading a book. Yes, there is that huge fear, and it is uncomfortable sometimes to say, oh no, I have not read a textbook, or these kids have not read a textbook, but they have been able to devour ebooks, and that's just what works with them because they're more open to that audio sense of things. And then ebooks are fantastic because you don't really have to worry about carrying like your 17 books.
Speaking from experience.
Yes, very much so. My backpack would be considered a weapon just because of all like the Harry Potter books that I wanted to read. Is you finish one, you go to the next one, and what happens if you finish
magically
3?
Finish the next one in one day?
And it's one of those magical things. But you know what? You got to be prepared.
I was not one of those kids. I cared a lot about my back health, and scoliosis, I feel like, freaked me out because they always checked you for it in school. So I was like, I will not be carrying all of the books, but I will have at least 2 on me at all times.
No, 1 for fun, 1 for just in case. No, I was not one of those posture kids, and I feel like now I can tell. But it's just one of those, it's like I need to make sure I keep up to things. But also, I'm a messy person. I'm a spiller. I am not comfortable wearing all white because I will end up with my lunch, or at least some of my lunch on it. So knowing that books are expensive, knowing that books take time to be published, all of that goes into like big care. So I don't want my books to be to have my coffee on them. I don't want to feel like I have paint or whatever, or pencil graph on my fingers, and then just ruin that beautiful, gorgeous piece of literature that's there when I can just have it on my phone in a free available app. And then it's just while I'm at the grocery store, while I'm waiting for my laundry, whatever the case may be, it's just more accessible. So I do see how it can be scary and frightening and overwhelming for adults to have that sense, and for even thinking that, oh, people are not reading books. But they are. Literature is there. It's being taken in. It's being consumed. It's just in a different media, and maybe just broadening up a little bit more as to what we see or what we consider books is probably going to be the better thing for me.
I love this response for so many different reasons. I think one of the things I'm seeing this from, I read a lot of student writing, and I do think, if at all possible, encourage your kids to read a physical book, because seeing words on a page makes it easier for you to put words on a page. And I think seeing the words, right, and how they're organized and structured is so important. But I don't think badgering them is the way to get that to happen. And I think I see all of these things like ebooks and audiobooks as like, this is how you get them in, right? Like that's
your starting point.
Their gateway to more reading, because ebooks I love because they're just words on a page. It's just in a digital format. I listen to audiobooks all the time because it means that I don't have to be holding something and I can be doing the dishes or folding laundry or doing something else. And all of these are wonderful, right? And you're right that it is literature. I've seen kids analyze Hamilton to no end, right? And the clothes and the dance and the outfit. And I'm like, great, you have analytical skills. This is one of the things we're wanting to build. And I think recognizing that we might have a narrow perspective of this, the way that maybe people thought about, the television when it first came out, and oh my goodness, people aren't listening to the radio anymore. It's like, well, now we can have the radio with pictures. So obviously we're going to go towards that. Yeah. And I think recognizing like we've been here before and we just need to adapt our expectations, but also make sure that we're not losing the really critical parts of that old medium, right? And making sure that we're finding ways to incorporate it. Maybe you don't need to read a full book, but I just need to make sure that when I'm teaching you in class, that you see words on a page more often. That if you really love, I think we were talking about K-pop Demon Slayers as the latest craze amongst the youths, that we read the script. Yeah. Right? That we see how they're forming, that we talk about dialect. I know, now that I know you were a linguist, all of these things can still be done, right? We just have to maybe adapt how we do them.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of one of the biggest things that I get as a teen librarian is like, how can I get my child to read? Have you tried graphic novels? That's not a book. I mean, it's got pages, it's got words, and it's bound. So, I mean, it is a book. It's just not what you want them to have, but it's going to get them there. And graphic novels, there's Edgar Allan Poe, lots of classical stories, Frankenstein. It's just amazing. They're there, and you can read them in the style in which they were meant to be, that they were written. Just, there's a little bit more to it. And that's okay.
I love that. When I was teaching high school, I taught history, and I love history. For me, it's fun. I don't need to do anything else to make it fun other than understanding these are stories and I want to know. But I found this graphic novel version of our textbook, and I remember they loved it. Students loved it, but they also loved it when I read aloud to them, which surprised me because these are 17, 18-year-olds in high school, and they're like, could you read it? I was like, yes. And so it became part of what we did. And it's not that they didn't want to read it, or I think sometimes that's perceived as like a lazy way out. But I think it was the community aspect of we're all reading together. But also that they could more easily ask for a pause and to, hey, can you explain what that word means? Without it being like, I'm reading, oh, I forgot, I don't know what that means. Let me go get up, ask the teacher for help, and come back. So I think there's a lot of benefits to graphic novels, to doing things like read alouds, even for teenagers.
Yeah.
And reading what everyone else is reading. I think people forget that we're creatures of community, and if that's what everyone else is watching, that's what I'm going to watch. I think this is how Book Talk kind of took 100%. Off, right? It's I can talk to other people about this. And if I'm reading Jane Austen, no offense to Jane Austen, but not many people are reading her around me at this age. And so who am I going to share that experience with? So I think that also kind of feeds into this.
Absolutely. And that's kind of one of the biggest things. It's just broadening up the way that we see it, but also allowing for people to change the story. So I read Pride and Prejudice in high school, and I cannot remember much of it. I remember the movie. Love the movie. Keira Knightley. But when I was in high school, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies came out, and I was like, I like zombies. I like sci-fi. I can do this. And it tells you the story with zombies. It doesn't change too much, but it changes enough to where there's more adventure, and it's just, there's more to it. And the language was a lot easier for me to understand because it was in something
18th century English.
Somehow I couldn't grasp it right away. It was just weird. Like don't know what my brain did. Yeah. So I do relate a lot to the, well, what about these classic books? They can be changed. Fan fiction is okay.
Adding things is okay.
Yes, adding and making them more relatable to today is also okay, because that makes that connection between the person and the story.
I love Shakespeare movie adaptations. Like, it's probably my favorite genre of rom-coms. And I did not realize this until I was looking at all my favorite movies, and I was like, wait a minute. They're all Shakespeare adaptations. And I've read the Shakespeare plays. I had to in high school. So I've read the original version of it, but there's something about the relatability of, this is in a high school setting. And I understand, and I am talking about 10 Things I Hate About You, because that's my favorite.
Love that.
Heath Ledger declaring his love in public, that I'm like, oh, I get Taming of the Shrew now, right? I understand it. And it's the combination of the things that I think this idea of broadening what literature means and how we can give kids access to it, so important. I'm going to pivot us a little bit, because I feel like we could talk about this forever.
I am a yapper, yes.
I think we both are. We ask each of our students when they start working with us what their definition of progress is. And I would like to ask all of our guests this as well. So how do you define progress?
To me, I think progress looks like, and that it is kind of tricky, because it's like progress for you, progress for someone else. Are you fulfilling maybe somebody else's idea of progress? And how does that kind of work? But to me, progress is doing something that's hard and then realizing the more you do it, it's not as hard anymore. So you want that other challenge. You want something else. And whether it's learning a sport or reading 100 books or simply just advancing your education, you're going to get there. And that's, not quitting is a huge part of progress in my experience or in my head, just because you keep going, and that's how you get to progress. So
that's like a perfect definition.
Yes.
That aligns really well with what we define it as too. But I like even your caveat at the beginning of progress for you versus progress as defined by others. So I think part of why we actually named RioProgress is because Rio sounds like real, right? And I felt like in our community, progress has always been dictated from someone else. And it's an ambiguous someone else. Like, we don't know who this is. But it's progress is, you know, having more people go to college. Progress is making more money. Progress is, you know, getting more businesses or whatever that looks like. And that can be what we define as progress too. But I really like our notion of it's just growth, right? It's challenging yourself and noticing it gets easier and sticking it out and then going for something a little harder, right? I think that's a really, really positive definition of it that's not tainted by all of this, like, extra stuff.
Yeah, because it can feel overwhelming. It's like, oh no, what does progress mean? Like, according to Google. But that's also not how you reference things. But like I said, to me, that's just what felt the most natural when it comes to progress. And that's what I feel like I've seen the most in everybody. It's like, oh, I was so scared of doing this. But now that it's done, I feel like I can do more. I feel like I can definitely do something else. And that is amazing to hear. Amazing to see.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I like about this is that it means everyone can be in progress, right? And they can be working towards their own individual things, but also our community can be all tackling a hard thing together, right? And moving forward together. And it doesn't require us to necessarily all be doing the same thing either. I think about this a lot around election time because I feel like there's like, we have to fix this. It's like, well, I really care about this.
Yeah.
But if we're all working on our own paths to fixing the thing we care about, like, the progress will actually be more, right? Because we're not all stuck doing this thing we don't really
You're divided and
conquering.
Conquering.
I know people care a lot about potholes, but that's not my personal mission. You know, I'm gonna just advocate for education instead. What advice would you give younger you?
That's a tough one because I want to say something really flowery and amazing and just like,
keep it real.
But honestly, it's not as hard as you're making it in your head.
Oh, that's a lot of young people need to hear that.
Yeah. And I will make things just so enormous in my head. And there are just tiny little hurdles that you just have to step over. But they feel so much bigger.
They look bigger in your head.
It's not as big.
I think of, I don't think I've shared this story very many times, but I think of, there was a Burger King back in the day by the University Boulevard.
Yes.
And it has one of those tilty thingies. And I was petrified of this to the point where, like, I would go up there and my brother, who's younger than me, would have to, like, yank me across it because I wouldn't crawl across it. Yeah. Like, this is how scared I was. And I remember the first time I went across it, I was like, oh. And mind you, it's like this big.
Yeah. It's maybe 3 feet at most.
But our brains just make things bigger than they are. And I think that's a really solid piece of advice, both to younger you and to other young people that might be watching, of it's not that big an obstacle. You just have to, like, move, right? And the moment you start putting one foot in front of the other, it's going to feel easier and eventually it'll be done.
And once it's done, you can look back and say, I did it.
I did it and I can do longer. I can do more.
I can do it again. It'll be easy. But yeah, it's just, that's I think what I would tell me. And even earlier me today. It's like, this is not going to be as crazy as you think it is.
Yeah, showing up being like, this podcast, but no, now we're almost done and you're here and you did it. What is giving you hope right now?
Community. Community has surprised me. Just our community in general. The people that I build my community and I want and I place close to me that are my biggest supporters, that will pull me back to me when I'm feeling not myself, is just amazing. But also community as a whole, how everyone around you or most people around you do want to see you succeed.
Yes.
No one really wants you to fail. They want to see you push forward and do the things. Recently, I was driving around and I missed my exit. I missed like my street, so I had to do a U-turn in a street. And there was a man who was closing his gate in Southmost, and I did a smooth like U-turn in the middle of the street, and he's like, "You did it."
I love that.
And random person, never once seen in my life. The pride that it gave me, I was like, I did do it. I am Fast and the Furious. No, I'm not. Don't do that. But it was just how the people around you, how the community will want to make sure that there's a success for you, that you are a story that ends up happily ever after, or just where you need to be.
Yeah, I think people here really root for one another, even if it doesn't seem like it. But even I know someone that can help you with that. Or like we've been so shocked at how word spreads about things and how many people just learn about like, oh, this is a thing and it's not for me right now, but I'm going to send it to someone who it is for, because they do want to see everyone succeed, right? Your success is my success. And I think I've done my fair share of traveling, and this is a unique place in that sense where we still have that, like, I'm just going to cheer you on because that was an amazing U-turn in the street, and we're going to clap for that.
Yeah, there's a big sense of, like, raza also.
Yes.
Where you see someone, you're like, you either see yourself in them or you see potential in them, and you just want to push them on because their success will in some way feel like your success. But also there's this big sense of pride in general where you did it. And that's amazing in this community.
Yeah. This is my last question, but what's one book or program you've seen light a spark in a young person recently?
Hunger Games is definitely coming back.
It's making a comeback.
It's making a comeback. And I love it. It's now being used in schools for like their summer reading.
I have a student whose summer reading it is. I'm so excited.
And I love it because they're coming back and they're like, so I have a question about Katniss. And I was like, well, first of all, she's an unreliable narrator, but go ahead.
We're going to have to talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just one of those where the cycle of the story keeps coming back and being so relevant, and it just really goes to show how the stories, regardless of when they came out or when they were published or what the impact was, they're still moving forward. And that just gives me also a lot of hope in that, one, my information and knowledge of the things that I loved as a middle schooler is still relevant, but also the sense of connection that it's creating with this new generation, because they're also seeing that fight, that struggle, that story, the adventure, and that how you can overcome everything.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear that the Hunger Games are making a comeback. Yes. I feel like they had a good run their first time around, but it's better now.
It is so much better. The kids are really into it too.
Yes. I think that it was like us weird kids liked it in middle school and were really into it, but it wasn't like mainstream. And from what I've seen, it's everywhere now and people are really into it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Being here with us today. I really appreciate that you've taken the time. You're coming from a long day of work to do this with us. And I hope that we can keep the conversation going. Is there anything you want to plug before I do my little spiel?
Yes. We are having our teen lock-in at our central library this coming October, and I'm really excited about it. This is where you get to spend the whole night, just teenagers and librarians and library aides, and it is our job to entertain you for a span of time. We give pizza, we do candy, we do laser tag, and it's a lot of fun. We don't give you coffee because that's for us, but it is one of those things that we're starting to do again since COVID, and it is a lot of fun, and it also brings it's a huge sense of community because the people that go to it, the kids that go to it, they're like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to come here. I didn't know you were this good at laser tag. Oh, okay. I guess you're cool too now. So they end up leaving with so many more friends, and this a big shift in what maybe libraries are to them if they were forced into it. And I love it. It's so much fun. I get to play laser tag with kids and show them that I can do it.
Yay! So we like to end the episode, or I like to end the episode with a practical thing, a thing to share, and then something that's giving us hope. I think our conversation's giving me hope. And the practical thing is related to that, which is reading can look like anything, and literature can look like anything. And so if you're worried about your kids not reading, consider graphic novels. That's the practical aspect, but also just broaden your horizons. I think that's a really practical